Today, I'm not talking about self-trust as a concept. We're talking about it as a relationship. It's the relationship between your mind and your heart, your nervous system and your intuition. It's the relationship between your soul and the little voice inside you that has been whispering the truth your whole life. See, self-trust is not something you either have or don't have. It is something that gets shaped by every moment that you were told your feelings were wrong, every time you swallowed a no in order to keep the peace, every time you learned that staying connected to someone else mattered more than staying connected to yourself. And yet, somewhere inside of you, that original knowing never died. It simply went quiet. But before I go any further, I want to gently let you know that later in this episode, I'm going to share a very real story from my own life that touches on loss and trauma. It is tender and it's important, but it may feel intense for some nervous systems. So if any point you need to pause, take a breath, step away, or even come back later, please do, because your safety always comes first here. Becoming a co-creator with the creator is your birthright. Together, we'll journey into your deepest authenticity. Because the more you align with who you truly are, the more effortlessly you call in the life that you desire and deserve. And most importantly, the more you step into your soul's highest purpose. Welcome to the Manifestation Method podcast, your number one source for Kabbalistic manifestation. Here we combine the ancient wisdom of Kabbalah, modern psychology, and quantum physics to help you achieve real, tangible manifestation results with my proven Abra method. I'm Ayelet Polonsky, and I'm here to guide you on your journey of manifesting a life that is aligned, expansive, and deeply connected to your highest self through the sacred energetic mechanics of Kabbalistic manifestation. To learn how to use Kabbalistic manifestation to transform your life from the inside out, go to ayeletpolonsky.com or download the Manifestation Method app. Let's open the gates of manifestation together. Okay, so in this episode, we're going to explore what self-trust really is, how trauma, attachment, and the nervous system fracture it, how Kabbalah understands the soul's relationship to truth and safety, and what it actually means to come back home to yourself in a way that doesn't require force or performance. This is not a motivational talk. It's a remembering. So I invite you to let yourself soften, let your shoulders drop, and let your belly relax. And let's dive in. So I was 20 years old when I woke up to 80-something missed calls and messages on my phone. And before I even opened them, I did what so many of us do. I went straight to social media. And the first thing I saw was post after post after post that read, "Rest in peace, Dawn. We love you, Dawn. You will always be remembered, forever missed. You're my angel in heaven." And I remember staring at the screen and thinking, who is Dawn? I mean, I was 20 years old. I hadn't experienced any major big loss up until that point. In fact, at 20 years old, I thought I was invincible. I thought I was going to live forever, right? And so it didn't register to me, Dawn. And so I kept scrolling, and then I saw her face, my Dawn, my friend, 19 years old, and my heart dropped into my stomach. I literally could not breathe. I remember we were supposed to go away together with a group of friends that very next weekend. And her life was just the beginning. And suddenly the world was talking about her in past tense. And so I remember calling a mutual friend and I was shaking, and she had told me what happened. She said that just that night before, Dawn had been stood up by a guy that she was dating. And so she called her best friend, Diana, and they went to the local Starbucks together. And there was a motorcycle show happening in the parking lot that night of the Starbucks. And it was loud and bright and full of energy. And so Diana, the best friend, ended up talking to a couple of random biker guys who invited the two of them to ride with them into New York City to grab something to eat real quick. And Diana was into it. Dawn, not so much. Dawn said to Diana, she said, "Dee, I have a bad feeling about this. I really don't think we should go." But Diana pushed. She just went on. She was like, "It's just a bite to eat. We'll come right back. No big deal. Let's just get on the back of the bike. Don't be a baby." And so Dawn had tried to protect herself in the only way she knew how. And so she said that she would only go if she was able to wear the driver's full head helmet instead of the half head helmet that they had offered her, right? That was her condition. And even though every cell in her body was saying no, even though her intuition was already waving a red flag, she didn't want to disappoint her friend. So she got on the back of the bike and they rode out onto the George Washington Bridge, and Dawn's driver was up ahead. Diana was behind. And as Diana's bike started to catch up, she saw something floating in the middle of the bridge, and it was Dawn's pink jacket. And then just up ahead, she saw Dawn's body. And so Diana jumped off her bike and ran to her, and she held Dawn in her arms. And Dawn looked up at her best friend and said, "Dee, I love you, and it's not your fault." Those were her last words before she died in Diana's arms that night. Dawn didn't listen to her inner knowing. She did not honor her no, and it cost her her life. And I share this with you not to scare you, but because this is how deep self-trust goes. This is how sacred it is. We are taught from such a young age to override ourselves in order to keep connection, in order to not make ripples or waves, in order to not disappoint, to go along even when something inside us is screaming. But that quiet voice inside you, that uneasy feeling in your gut, that hesitation in your chest, that is your soul trying to keep you safe. It is your alarm bell. Self-trust is not a small thing. It is everything. And the truth is, Dawn's story isn't just about a tragic moment on a bridge. It's about something so many of us live every single day in even quieter ways. We don't honor our no. We override that subtle tightening in our chest, that whisper of discomfort, that inner knowing that something isn't right because let's face it, we're all afraid of losing connection, afraid of losing approval, afraid of losing love. And so we don't always lose our lives when we do that in the way Dawn did, but we do lose pieces of ourselves. And then over time, those small self-abandonments add up to anxiety, to exhaustion, to relationships that don't feel safe, to a life that doesn't quite fit. And so as we move into the rest of this episode, I really want to explore what it really means to come back to that inner voice, what it actually means to rebuild self-trust and to choose ourselves without believing that it means we have to be alone. Before we continue, I'd like to share something that I've personally been using in my own practice, especially during monthly ceremonies and gatherings. I've been integrating the Rainbow Chakra full-length mat from Healthy Line, and it's become a really supportive part of how I ground my nervous system and create intentional space. This mat combines far infrared heat, PEMF therapy, and chakra-aligned gemstones, which makes it incredibly powerful for slowing down, regulating, and reconnecting with the body. Each time I get on the mat, It works every time. I feel a deep sense of warmth and a settling. I don't feel stimulated. I don't feel like I have to force anything. It's just my system remembering how to soften. So I use it during meditation, breath work, and like I said, I have all my participants use it during monthly ceremonies, and I've gotten such amazing feedback. Everybody just loves laying on this mat. It's really the kind of experience that stays with you even after you get up off the mat. So if you're curious about it and you want to learn more about how it works and how I use it in my own personal practice, you can click the link in my show notes or visit the link in my bio. See, there is a reason so many of us can do all the right things, right? We can visualize, we can say our affirmations, we can journal and pray and call in the abundance and, I don't know, recite mantras, understand our trauma, do all the things. And yet we still feel secretly anxious, secretly unsure, secretly afraid that something underneath us is not actually stable. And it's because underneath everything, self-trust is either present or it isn't. And truly, truly, no amount of manifestation techniques or gratitude lists can compensate for a nervous system that had learned very early on that its signals were not safe to follow. Right? So here, safe trust, when I speak about it, I'm not just speaking about a mindset. It's not just a belief in something. It's not something you convince yourself of with enough positive thinking. Self-trust is a relationship between your consciousness and your body. It's the ability to listen deeply to the signals inside your gut, inside your heart. It is that felt sense that when something inside of you says yes, no, wait, go, stop, protect, reach, you will listen. And most of us did not grow up in environments where that relationship was honored or even welcomed, right? I mean, as children, little boys and little girls are wired to feel. We're wired to feel, right? These little boys and little girls, all of us, when we're young, our bodies know hunger, our bodies know fear, we know pleasure, we know overwhelm and joy and pain, and we respond immediately, right? We don't wait for information from outside of us or someone from outside of us to dictate when we're really, really, really little, right? But then at a certain point, as we get just a little bit older, very early in life, right? Connection becomes conditional. You know, if you cry too much, you're told you're dramatic. If you say no, you're told you're being difficult. If you're angry, you're called bad. If you're sensitive, right? For me, I was a very sensitive child. And I remember, I know what it's like to be told over and over again, you're too much. You're too much. I can't handle you. And so the child learns something very quietly and very dangerously. And what they learn is that my feelings threaten my belonging. My no threatens love. My truth threatens my safety. And, I know I really relate to this on such a deep level, right? And it's because we begin as little kids, the first and deepest abandonment as a result of this dynamic. And what we're actually abandoning is we're abandoning ourselves in order to stay attached to the people that we need in order to survive. And that's the moment self-trust fractures. And the tragedy is that it doesn't feel like a dramatic betrayal when it happens. Right? It feels like being good. Oh, I did that thing. I abandoned myself because mom couldn't handle me. So I made sure that I didn't do that thing anymore in order to be good. Right? Or that dramatic betrayal of self feels like being loving. We're being loving. We're being adaptable. We're being flexible and easy and agreeable and all the things. Right? And sometimes it feels like spiritual maturity. But really underneath it, the body is learning a very specific lesson. And that is, when I feel something, I should not listen. When something feels wrong, I should override it. When I'm uncomfortable, I should stay anyways, right? When I want to leave, I should stay. When I want to speak, I should be quiet. When that guy tries to kiss you and your body says no, but you do it anyways, right? When your friends invite you out to a party and your body is screaming, you're exhausted, choose sleep, but you go get your best outfit on instead and you go anyways and you regret it the next day. And so what happens is we grow into adults who don't know why we're anxious. We don't know why we overgive, why we get stuck in relationships that don't feel safe, why we can't make clean and clear decisions, right? Why our manifestations look wobbly and why our boundaries feel blurry. And I don't know, why our hearts don't feel held even when life looks good on the outside. And from a psychological perspective, this is trauma, and not always the kind of trauma that looks dramatic or violent from the outside, but I'm talking about even the quiet, relational kind that forms in everyday moments when your feelings were not met, when your no was not honored, when your truth felt inconvenient or unsafe. It is a nervous system trauma. It is an attachment trauma. It's what happens when a child learns that staying connected to the people they need means leaving themselves behind. And so your body is wired to choose connection over authenticity, right? Because to a really young nervous system, connection equals survival. And so even when something inside of you knows what's true, even when your body sends a clear signal, you override it. You swallow it, you adapt it, you tell yourself you're just overreacting or you're being too much. And then you do the thing that you actually don't want to do. And over time, you don't just lose touch with your truth. You lose trust in yourself. You lose integrity with yourself. And you start to feel unsteady in your own life and unsure in your decisions, and you're constantly second guessing because the part of you that learned to survive learned that your inner knowing could not be relied on. Hi, Ayelet here. I just wanted to pop in and say I am so excited to officially introduce the Manifestation Method portal, membership, and app. This is your home for all things Kabbalistic manifestation. You'll get access to my monthly live workshops, soul deep hypno activations and attunements, all of our manifestation courses, and our global community of manifestors. And the best part, it's just $26 a month. That's less than a latte a week. Come manifest alongside me and start creating the life you desire and deserve. Head over to ayeletpolonsky.com to join us. And that is what we're really healing when we talk about self-trust here, right? We're teaching the body that it no longer needs to abandon itself in order to belong. Yeah. And from a Kabbalistic perspective, this is the shattering of the vessels, right? In the tree of life with the sfirot, the soul descends into form, into the body, into this world. And when the light is too much for the vessel cracks. And so trauma is light that arrives before the system has the capacity to hold it. And so self-trust is the process of slowly repairing the vessel so that light and intuition and inner guidance and truth and inner knowing can really move through us without overwhelming us. Right? When you don't trust yourself, your inner vessels are fragmented. Right? You might receive signals, but they don't integrate. You might feel something in your body, a little yes, a little no, a little nudge one way or another, right? But you don't follow it. There's an inner knowing, but you override it. And that is spiritual dissonance. That is nervous system dissonance. That is the core of why so many people feel ungrounded in their own lives. And this is also, where manifestation gets really honest. You cannot manifest a life that feels safe if your body does not feel safe with you. I always say you can only receive the abundance that your nervous system feels safe enough to hold, right? You cannot receive love, abundance, or clarity if your system is bracing for abandonment every time it speaks. And at the end of the day, from a manifestation perspective, the universe does not respond to your words only. It really, on a deeper level, yeah, words is one level of manifestation for sure, but on a much deeper level, the universe responds to your coherence. And coherence happens when your thoughts, emotions, body, and soul are in agreement, in alignment. And so when you say yes and you mean yes, right? When you say no and you honor your no, when you feel something and you don't shame it, when you need space and you take it, right? When something doesn't feel right and you don't force yourself through it, you are creating deeper and deeper levels of integration in your system. And believe me, this took me many, 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 many years to learn, to not just learn, but to embody. I used to be that person at a Shabbat meal after a whole morning of socializing. I'd be sitting there with a group of people, more socializing, and I couldn't really understand why my body would start to feel tired or overwhelmed, or my nervous system would just feel wrung out. And I would just totally override it. And as I matured in honoring my no and started to really understand this stuff, I remember really playing with this no, and I'd be at Shabbat meals with my husband, and he'd sense that I was at my end. And he'd be like, "It's okay, go home. I can take the kids home later. I'm fine. You go." And I remember at first being like, "Oh my gosh, no, I can't leave the host. They invited us. They're expecting me to stay. I'm part of the whole, ambiance of the meal." Like all this inner self-talk that would convince me as to why I needed to abandon my no in order to maintain connection with the host. Right. And it took me a long time to get to a point where I'd be sitting at a Shabbat meal and it'd be, not even halfway through the meal. And I would look at the host and I would say, "Thank you so much for having me. I had a lovely time. So nice being with you. I need to get home and get some rest." And like clockwork, every time it's like I've just been honored and met in my no, because when I honor me, the world honors me. And it's such a beautiful reclamation. Right. This is also why I really believe that self-trust is the deepest form of self-love. Right. When you rebuild self-trust, you are literally rewiring your nervous system. Yeah. Every time you listen to a boundary, you send your own body the message that says, "I am safe with me." The most important person you can be safe with, yourself. And every time you tell the truth when you're scared, you actually send your body the message, "I will not disappear in order to make someone else comfortable." Right? And slowly what happens is the hypervigilance softens, the anxiety loosens, the mental chatter gets quieter, right? This constant scanning for danger starts to soften or gets quieter. And literally your soul starts to settle back into your body. This is also why so many people confuse self-trust with strength, right? They think being strong means staying, means pushing, means enduring. But I really believe that real strength is responsiveness. Real strength is attunement to yourself first. Real strength is listening, right? Real strength is having enough inner security to say, "This doesn't feel right and I'm allowed to move." Right? I kind of see it as like the metaphor of being on an airplane before the flight takes off, and the flight attendant gives the example of if in case of an emergency, if the mask drops, the adult puts the mask on themselves before they put it on the child next to them. Right? It's like you're doing it with love. And so for me, self-trust is the embodiment of me first, you second, with love. I mean, the with love piece is important, right? But I get to put me first because this is my temple and I have the right to honor the temple. I am living inside holy ground, right? In Kabbalah, there's a concept called emet, truth, and also shalom, which means peace, truth and peace. Most people think peace comes from avoiding conflict. But in truth, in real truth, peace can only come from alignment with that truth, right? When you lie to yourself, even if it's gently, even if it's politely or spiritually, it fractures your soul. Your soul feels it and it creates an inner war. And so self-trust is really the restoration of emet, of truth inside your own being. So if you are in a season of your life where you feel confused or tender or unsure, it might not be because you don't know what to do. It may be because you know what you need to do, but you're just scared to listen. And that fear, I just want to add, is not weakness. It is simply the echo or residual of all the times you were taught that listening to yourself was dangerous. But it isn't anymore, right? Let this be your reclamation of honoring self, because you are not a child trying to survive someone else's moods anymore. You are an adult who can create safety and protection and containment for your own heart. And the more you practice that, the more the universe responds, not because you forced anything, but because you became coherent with yourself, right? Self-trust is the portal. It is the womb of manifestation. It is the sacred ground of love, and it is the vessel that holds your magnificent light. And when you choose yourself gently again and again, the world literally reorganizes around that choice, right? Because when your soul knows you will listen, then your soul finally dares to speak. And so before we close, I want to ask you for something, from my heart to yours, really. If this episode touched you, if something inside you softened or felt seen or remembered itself as you were listening, it would mean so much to me if you would take a moment and rate this podcast and leave a review. And I'm not asking this to impact the algorithm or the numbers, but really because every rating and every share helps this work reach the people who are quietly searching for exactly this kind of language for what it is they're feeling. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, whether it be a friend, a sister, a family member, a partner, right, someone who is learning how to come back to themselves, then I invite you to share this episode with them. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is say, hey, I heard this and I thought of you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being willing to feel, and thank you for walking this path of self-trust with me. Until next time, here's to your rising. If you enjoyed this episode, let's keep the conversation going inside the Manifestation Method Portal app, your #1 destination for Kabbalistic manifestation. Inside, you'll unlock the secrets of manifestation through my proven Abra method, rooted in Kabbalah, psychology, and quantum physics, designed to help you manifest real, tangible results from the inside out. Join our global community of manifestors, explore our signature courses, monthly live manifestation workshops with me, Ayelet, and access our transformational hypno activations and attunements to rewire limiting beliefs and align with your soul's purpose. The app is available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play. To sign up, head over to ayeletpolonsky.com. Becoming a co-creator with the Creator is your birthright. Let's manifest the life you desire and deserve together.